And I know a lot of our listeners out there are very concerned about parental alienation syndrome and have suffered a lot of the effects of that themselves, so they're going to be very interested in hearing what you have to say today.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let's start by telling us a little bit about your organization, Children Need Both Parents, Inc.
Well, my organization, Children Need Both Parents, we're a nonprofit, 501c3. We've been around since 1993. We organized based on the fact that I myself was having trouble with the visitation of my own children. I have two sons. Well, one of them passed last year as a result of liver cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That he got from, it's believed and has been confirmed that Ritalin was the cause of his liver cancer.
Wow.
Which was totally against my will, but I'll go into that later. But my organization was put together based on my having to take court orders to my children's mother's house to get them when they were 2 and 3 years old because she would hide them or pretend like she wasn't home, and I'd have to take the police. And at that time, the laws did not allow you to go into court and file a motion based on your parenting time being violated unless you, in fact, had an attorney. So it costs money to have these things straightened out. Nobody was listening. I started writing letters to the Chicago Sun-Times, and they started printing these letters. And from that point, people started calling me from across the country because there were other fathers that were going through the same thing, and there was no refuge. And I know that the fathers' rights movement, which in my eyes is a very bad thing because we all have the right to be a father, but after conception, it's not about father's rights. It's about fatherhood. And if there is such a movement, it should be a fatherhood movement and not a father's rights movement. But Children Need Both Parents sprang up out of that. We were initially a quote-unquote a father's rights movement, but we are now a family organization because we try to protect the rights of the parent-child relationship because it's being denigrated or destroyed by different legislation and federal funding sources. So this goes far beyond just dads. We've got the adoption and the foster care industry that rip children out of the arms of loving parents and denigrate the other parent. In most cases, it's a father for the sole purpose of the funding sources that pay the state to find children to put into the foster care industry and the bonuses that come from adopting them. So we are an organization that are actually fighting for the parent-child relationship to be protected by this country so that these things that are happening in divorce court, in foster care, and adoptions can come to an end.
Okay, and how do you go about doing that?
Well, we've connected with organizations across the country. We're lobbying legislators. We're writing letter writing campaigns. We actually have a state senator in the state of Georgia who actually understands and is a champion for the cause because what she calls Title IV is an industry of corruption. And it was initially put together just for the sole sake of protecting children. But we have used the guise of in the best interest of the child and the phrase that we need to protect these children to give the nation an excuse to take children from loving parents or to destroy one parent for the sole purpose of child support collection. So we are getting the legislators involved on the federal level so that they understand that there's a problem on the state level with the use of the Title IV funds.
Okay. And when you mentioned Title IV, we might have several listeners out there who are not really sure what that is. Can you elaborate a little bit on what Title IV is?
Yes, Title IV is actually the Social Security Administration. It's legislation or a funding source that comes directly from Social Security. There's several subsections of Title IV. Some perpetuate paternity establishments. Some is child support collection. Another is adoptions and foster care. But it basically was welfare reform. But what it does is it puts the state directly in your household, and it gives them the opportunity to dictate what they perceive to be what's in the best interest of your child, and they pay the states to oversee the households of family. And in a lot of cases, it's families who can't afford adequate legal counsel, so they are going in homes and they're ripping children out of homes for the sole sake of getting the funding incentives from the federal government. And when it comes to fathers, it's profitable to collect child support. I am a proponent of what I call EPR, which is equal parental responsibility, which is what our courts should start working toward when it comes to divorce.
Okay, and what is that?
Well, equal parental responsibility is that both parents have a responsibility to parent their child on an equal basis. This takes away the ruling or the awarding of custody to one parent or the other, and while it takes away the giving custody to one parent, it gives children to both parents on an equal basis. They both have a responsibility to raise and direct their children, and with that comes the financial obligation. It's a shame that we have come to the point that we point the fingers at one parent to tell them that their responsibility is on a financial basis, and that the responsibility of raising the children belongs to the other. So we discriminate both parents in the time with the children, and with the money issue, one parent is discriminated financially, the other is discriminated in time. And this is what the states and the federal government has come to believe is in the best interest of the child. Now, while we're doing that, we also destroy the relationships not only with that parent that's absent and reduced to a financial obligation, but we destroy the relationship of the parent and the grandparents and the aunts and the uncles and the cousins on the side of the family where the parent has been reduced to a financial obligation. So equal parenting responsibility is both parents have a responsibility to parent their child equally.
So is that, are you talking about maybe a 50-50 custody schedule, like, 1 week with one parent, 1 week with the other? I mean, how do you envision that?
Those things should be, those are the issues that should be worked out on the level with caseworkers or mediators, but it can be on a weekly basis, a bi-weekly basis, or a monthly basis, or 6 months at a time. But the bottom line is, you cannot reduce a parent to simply a financial obligation. A father or a non-custodial parent cannot be a parent when they are actually having their children on a physical level 3 days, 4 days out of the month. You can be a visitor, you can be a best friend, but you cannot be a parent. And aside from that, the baseball games, the school plays, all the things that the children are involved in, we completely eliminate that parent and that complete biological side of a child's existence when a parent only sees their kids on a Wednesday and on a Saturday. Children belong to parents Monday through Sunday, every day of the week, and it's our responsibility as a nation to make sure that these children are connected with both sides of their biological families. And I think that once we start moving in that vein, and it's not what's in the best interest of the child, it's what's in the best interest of the family, because as Hillary Clinton mentioned, it takes a village to raise a child. But the problem that comes along with that old African adage is that the village that she was speaking of was the state, but the old African adage meant that that village was the extended family. And when we start to bring the entire family back into the lives of our children, we'll see the subsiding of crime, of drugs, of teenage pregnancies, of teenage prostitution. All these things will start to dissipate when we start to get the family involved in the lives of the children.
Okay. Now, for our listeners out there, I want to sort of clear up a little bit, because you said that you are lobbying on a federal level, but yet we've mentioned a lot of states and the laws that they are imposing, and that is because